Iyer. Dr. Sailesh Iyer is serving as a professor and dean, Department of Computer Science and Information Technology, Roy School of Engineering, Ahmedabad. He is a PhD in computer science with 22 years of experience in academics, industry, and corporate training. He has patents to his credit and is editor for book projects with IGI Global, Taylor and Francis, and Bentham Science. A hardcore academician and administrator, he excels in training and has delivered numerous expert talks. His research areas include computer vision, cybersecurity, data mining and analytics, and artificial intelligence. With this, I hand over the session to Dr. Sailesh Iyer. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the introduction. I'd just like to, I would like an interactive session, and I would just like to add that I'm also heading the SSIP and the IIC cell as president of Rai University, and I'm also the MEP coordinator of Rai University. So I would just like to share my screen. I hope the screen is visible. PPT.
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
Fine. I hope I am audible and the screen is visible.
Yes, sir, you're audible and your slides are visible. So thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you. So I would just like to focus upon today's topic, like incubators and startups. Actually, the main problem with why the startups were required in is that all the even the state government as well as the central governments are all focusing upon development of startups, development of an ecosystem where we can build entrepreneurs and we can build startups. The primary reason is that there is a lot of jobs which, I mean, the current youth we are dealing. I think so somebody is unmuted still. Request you to kindly mute yourselves. Yeah. So like there is a lot of trend right now since last few years where the focus has been on the candidates or the young generation of today want government jobs, they want security. So government has launched this, it is not able to provide government jobs to many people. So the reason was that, okay, what can be done for removing this kind of a mentality? So that was the reason why startups were encouraged. There was a SSIP, student startup and innovation policy in place by most of the state governments. And also we have a central government sponsored IIC called Institution Innovation Council, which focuses upon innovation and startups. So the whole idea is that why not create such a mindset where the youth becomes a job giver, not a job taker. So the focus is that we want to create more entrepreneurs, we want to create more startups, and that is how we want to move forward. So with this idea, actually, this whole incubation and startup world was started, and this was started since 2016, if I'm not mistaken, by most of the state governments. Some had it from 2014 onwards, but 2016 actually the startup movement started, which I call as a startup movement. And a lot of people have benefited from this. We have had a lot of people who are in the club of elite club of millionaires who have been millionaires through producing startups. There are a lot of focus on development of startups and a lot of other funds are also there in place. So we'll try to talk about some of the initiatives taken and how it can benefit the people. But first of all, these are some photographs which I have placed. Actually, they are the co-founders or the founders of a lot of new enterprises. And I've started with uh, this particular pic in my presentation because this particular uh, pictures are of ladies who have succeeded as startups. So there is no gender bias again, but normally this is a field where startups are mainly earlier was male oriented. Now it is now a lot of female are also coming into it. And I would just like to focus upon a few of them actually out of this. Aanchal Saini is one of the CEO and co-founder of Rented Bay. Now, this is a very typical new concept of startup. Now, what happened is that she was very much, I mean, she was too much connected with fashion. She liked to have fashionable clothes, garments, etc. And she wanted to change her garments on a regular basis. So she found that there was no other option right now available. She had to buy those garments. Now, buying is very expensive. After maybe 2 or 3 days, or after wearing it for 2 or 3 times, maybe she may not find it that much attractive to wear because some other design comes up. So how do you deal with this problem? So she started with a concept called rent a bay. Right now, this name itself says that okay, clothes can be, garments can be rented, and if I am having some garments, I can put it just like OLX sort of thing. Rent a bay works on that concept. So you can actually order, customer can order particular garments. Okay, there is a portal from which this can take place, and there can be a delivery or pickup arranged as per the convenience of the customer and the person who is shelling out the garment. And then the rental can be discussed, then the return policy can be there, fulfillment center is there, cleaning and inspection is there again, because see, suppose somebody is taking a cloth on rent, and suppose they are not returning it back in a particular condition, in proper wearable condition, it is torn or something. So there should be a cleaning and inspection of the particular garment also, and based on that, the transportation and again back on racks. So this is the entire way how the cycle was run. Now this particular concept was very successful because ladies are looking at such options, and this was primarily concerned with related to women's garments and women's wear. So this was a very successful venture. So this is one thing which can be a successful startup. There was one more lady who actually was a NIFT and a IAM graduate, and she actually revived this culture of Kutch. In Kutch, there is an Ajrakh craft which was being maintained earlier. Now she gave it a new dimension and she started this particular venture. And this was also very successful because this was totally handmade, without machines, handmade work. And this evolved a craft which was actually dying down. So again, startup does not mean that you have to go only with the technological advancements. You could also have traditions coming into the picture, where you have traditional wear or traditional methods being adopted, and you can provide employment to the villagers also. So this is something which probably was led to a revival of a village which was actually not getting the advantage that it earlier enjoyed, because that craft was very well known earlier. But now with this revival, again they have started earning and they have started generating employment for people. So again, this is the right way of entrepreneurship or startup, where this particular focus is there. These are some names. Can you name some of them at least? If anybody can unmute themselves and just name. These are very famous personalities. Anyone? Okay. I would like to focus upon two particular main characters here, which is actually KFC founder and Alibaba founder. These two are legendaries, because I'll tell you the reason of that in the next slides. But Ola was also founded by, Ola is a very interesting case. Ola, how it came into existence is that the founder actually was traveling by, his father had a business and he was compelling him to go into business, but he was an educated person, so he did not want to go into a business, and he wanted to uh, go into the family. He did not want to go into the family business. So what he started with is that he thought that okay, let me think about something new. Now, once he was traveling in a cab with one of his friends. And after traveling for about some time, the particular cab driver asked for a higher uh, negotiated rent, which was negotiated. He asked for some higher rent regarding that. So if suppose like it was 3,000 rupees earlier, it was an intercity point kind of thing, 3,000 rupees, he said that, "Oh, I'll charge 5,000." So in between on the highway, this person disagreed. The Ola founder disagreed, and he thought that okay, maybe it may be settled for 3,500 also. But that cab driver insisted on 5,000, and he dropped these people on the highway without any conveyance. Now standing there, actually most of us get irritated that what has happened, and they start cursing others. Instead of that, what this fellow did is that he thought that why not I have some service which is reliable, which will actually drop me at the promised price place and the promised price. So he started with a concept called Ola, and this Ola cabs came into the picture. Also in Chennai, actually there were floods in 2016-17. I mean the most of the low-lying areas were flooded, and most of the offices were not approachable. At that time, for regular Ola customers, Ola founders started with a scheme called where they provided ferry service for free. So this created a loyal customer base of Ola. So this is why Ola is more preferred over various other cab uh, providers that are there. So this is one example where I can say that these are the strategies which can actually build a stronger organization, build a stronger startup, and this can be very useful for uh, your employees also, because they'll be earning from that, as well as in Ola there is an arrangement where they have a lot of cabs associated with them. So those cab owners are also getting employment, they are earning. So this is a win-win situation for all the stakeholders. Lenskart, Piyush Bansal, Shadi.com, it's a very well-known venture right now. So all these are very successful ventures that have taken place. Add more, Boat and Sugar Cosmetics. These are also very well-known brands, and these are people who have actually rejected high salaries after their IIM and all the employment that they got. They've got a very good salary, very fat package. They've rejected that, and they have built up their own enterprise. So that is the gut that is required for creating enterprises. Now, I would like to come to a 13-year-old. Normally, what happens is that people say that age is a limitation sometimes. You cannot be an entrepreneur at a young age. That is totally wrong. 13-year-old CEO Hillary Yip, she actually started a gaming firm, and it is very well known right now. She is the CEO of that particular company, and at 13 years she started it. She was very much addicted to games, and she thought, why not I develop such games which can be useful for people, for children. So she started with it, and it turned into a very successful venture. Now she is probably 17 or 18 years old, and she's still the CEO of the company. She's earning a lot. Now, this is Colonel Sanders. He is popularly known as a KFC face. Actually, KFC stands for Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it is very famous all over the world. His story is very interesting. He actually believed in his sentence, and he told that I have had only two rules: do all you can and do it the best you can. So, with this philosophy, he started with his KFC ventures. But very few people know that actually he was rejected 1009 times before his first chicken was sold. He was serving as in the armed forces, and then after retirement he started wanted he was a very good cook. He was uh, cooking chicken very nicely. So he was actually going to he went for a job also earlier, but he was rejected there also. Then he wanted to sell franchises. So he went and introduced his chicken to various franchise outlets, to various restaurants. 1009 times he was rejected before his first chicken was sold. So that was a very, I mean, dramatic way of setting up a business because at 65 years age he started his business. So this is an age where mostly in India we think of retirement and sitting at home and enjoying with grandchildren. He started his venture at 65 years after being rejected 1009 times. So it's a huge gut that he has taken along with him, and this is what has resulted in the success. So as I told you that he had success at the age of 65, and interesting because I said that we'll be talking about Alibaba also. Jack Ma is the founder of Alibaba. Now, when KFC first came to China, at that time Jack Ma was looking for a job. So 24 people went for the job, out of which 23 people were accepted, and only guy rejected for that job at KFC was Jack Ma. Now just think that if he would have been selected, he would have probably been just a maybe he would be working at KFC for a regular wages. But now he is the founder of Alibaba.com. So these are the things that separate people, successful people from ordinary people. So Jack Ma actually started this particular, he was fascinated with internet and he started his own venture by collecting funds from various people, and now he is the richest man in China by 2014. So this is probably a huge achievement for somebody who has started from rags to riches. So there is a saying which says that 97 of the people who quit too soon are employed by the 3% who never gave up. Now, what is the reason why I'm giving all these examples is because when we are dealing with students, actually we have a good startup policy over here. We are generating a lot of entrepreneurs to our ventures over here at Tri University. We are funding also through our SSIP project a lot of such particular ventures of students. But the main problem here is that mostly the students are having a fixed mindset. So first thing that we have to do is that we have to teach them not only success, what is success, because some students think that okay, first time I put a proposal, it should be accepted without any major change. Now, that is not the case. So they have to learn that failure is something which comes along with success, and you have to take both together. You have to balance them. So that is where actually such examples need to be given to the students, and students need to be motivated to change their mindset because mostly their mindset is of a very narrow type that okay, first proposal, you should get immediate customers and you should start the business. That is not possible always. Elon Musk is also one of the greatest intellectual examples. I would like to say intellectual because he has created an ecosystem. Tesla is of course there, PayPal is there, but he has created an ecosystem where right now you might have seen that when Russia and Ukraine war started, at that time Ukraine, most of the telecom facilities were affected. Now they requested Elon Musk to provide satellite support, and he activated his satellites for Ukraine. So this is something which probably shows how a person can really, how a single person and a company can change uh, the entire functioning of a country. So Ukraine benefited from that because they did not have any kind of telecom connections that was actually restored with the help of these satellites. So this is something which probably Elon Musk is an example, intellectual revolution. His company has a lot of patents to the credit and a lot of benefits are there. I mean, in the future, even the fueling stations for electric vehicles, the entire support, infrastructure support is there right now with Tesla, with Elon Musk. So this is thinking about the future, and this is how probably wealth can be created and brand can be created. So after seeing all these examples, the first question that any student, because I mean, I understand this is an FBP, so most of the would be faculties. Now faculties have to influence the students. So that is where our role comes in. How do we influence the students to have a startup? Most of the people are designed, most of the students are the habits inculcated in them since their childhood is that you have to get a good job in a good company, MNC. There's that in South also. Actually, I am basically from South. So in South, actually, South of India, there is a tendency that okay, you have to work for IT companies mainly, and this is the particular. So this job mentality is normally built up. In Gujarat, it is slightly different. In Gujarat, we have a gut instinct, like most of the people, Gujarati young generation, 70% are inclined towards setting up their own ventures. So here, convincing them is easier, but then bringing in technology is a little bit difficult into the innovation. So that is where we are facing a problem. So what is a startup company? A company, partnership, or a temporary organization designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. Now, this is very important that it should be repeatable and it should be scalable. These two terms are very important, right? So, how to actually use technology? Because right now, without technology, startups are very difficult to manage. Say Ola, Uber, Zomato, everything is based on technology only. If internet is not working, it will be difficult for them to operate. So it is technology oriented, app oriented, um, portal oriented. So everything is based on technology. So technology is one of the key factors for the innovation. So a new or small company is not actually equivalent to a startup. Many times it happens that people confuse with these definitions that a new or small company is a startup, but it is not like that. Startup is actually where we are looking at repeatable and scalable business model being built up. It is not that, okay, it may be small right now, but is it possible to evolve into a big company going forward? So that is scalable, that is profitable, whether a profitable company can be built up. Any social cost is being solved. So all this can result in effective startups. So often it's based on technology and the focus is on low cost because you want to bring down the cost. You want to reach out to more people. So it's too easy to reach more people because technology is the main factor behind that. And high risk, high reward. You take a risk and you are rewarded suitably. Now, this is the startup timeline. Actually, I would say starting from growth, mission and mission, minimum viable product MVP, product market fit, and scalability. So, with time, actually, this should be flourishing. This should be going up. So, that is what we are talking about as a startup timeline. Now, startup timeline consists of ideation. Ideation is where ideas are generated, ideas are floated, ideas are discussed, and then you go ahead for concept building. Next is concept building, where you have concepts being built up. And that concepts may take, with a clear direction, it may take anywhere between 3 to 36 months. It depends. And there can be ownerships. You go into the details of the idea and how to make it into a reality. Then there is a commitment where you are building a minimum viable product or a service, right? You're able to build the product or service without dependency on uncommitted external resources. You know that, okay, these are all the resources with me, and these resources would be available without any interruptions. So that is a commitment that you require when you are going for a minimum viable product, right? Then comes a validation. How do you validate your product is fit for the market? It is able to achieve the kind of goals that you have thought about, and the product specifications are as per standards. So that is a validation that you're getting from the market, and it can be a feedback in the form of a feedback also sometimes from the customer. Scaling is where once successful on a small scale, you can always take it to the next level. So you can increase the sales based on the region, based on the demographics, etc. So that is called scaling. And then establishing, where you, after you have established, after you scale your product, you are establishing and making yourself a big brand. So that is something which will give you the benefits. And here, word of mouth is a very important thing. So that's why actually when we start with small businesses, it is said that the quality is very important. Once the quality is perfect, there are more chances that the business can be scaled up, the brand can be established. So this is what we are talking about. So this is the startup timeline which you should be looking for. Now, if your startup, if your student startup, after 2 years is also not picking up, then you need to look at where you are failing. Because many times it happens that startups are uh, first time they get a good order. After that, if the sales is coming down, then there may be some reason for it. Either the product may not be up to the mark, or it may be costly. So you have to evaluate what is the reason for the startup not succeeding. So that's also a very important portion of startups, and you have to monitor your startup viability also from time to time. So who is an entrepreneur, right? Now, entrepreneur is somebody who creates a startup, as simple as that. But creating a startup is not easy. Some people have a lot of ideas, but they don't have the courage to put it into practice. So they don't become entrepreneurs. They give the idea to somebody else, and then they may do a job somewhere else. So that is the reason why entrepreneurs are a little bit tough. They have a tough mindset. They have a strong appetite to risk taking. They are able to take calculated risks, and they are able to bring the best out of the minimum that they have. Entrepreneur need not create a startup. He or she can operate inside established generations. Now, the entrepreneur is sometimes called as an intrapreneur also. Intrapreneur means here he is working for an organization, but he is like a startup only inside the organization. So he gets a lot of benefits based on what he is generating inside the organization. So that can be an intrapreneur. Right now, actually, belongingness is one word. If we are in college, working in a university, or if we are telling our students, we always say that have a belongingness towards the college you are studying, college you're working, or to the organization you're working, you're employed. So similarly, entrepreneur is where a person has enough belongingness towards the organization he or she is working for the betterment and is able to give results properly, just like they are doing it for their own firm. So this is what we are talking about. Not necessarily all are entrepreneurs only. There may be some entrepreneurs also who may in future become entrepreneurs also. So it depends. And entrepreneur does not always need to invent. Now, entrepreneur may be a person who may actually give a cost-effective solution. Also. There's no invention in that. But then again, there is always a risk of somebody else giving a lower cost product. So that has to be thought about, and the quality aspect also is very important here. So these are all factors which you need to look at when you are counseling the student, because student has the habit that okay, only technology people can be entrepreneurs. It's not like that. We need to invent. No, not necessarily. If you have some good skill, and you can, for marketing you may need technology, but not necessarily for particular uh, invention is only treated as an entrepreneur. Who invents is treated as an entrepreneur. That's not necessary. So this is what we need to look at. So sometimes, mostly when we had a starting entrepreneur related session over here, at that time one of the management students actually he had asked me a question. We had an idea pitching session also. So he asked me that, sir, how can I be a entrepreneur? I'm from management background. I'm not from technology background. And I told him that it's not necessarily you need to be from technology background. You can have your own setup of some other thing which may not be related to technology, but which may use technology for marketing or for reaching out to customers or for some other facility that you're giving. So this is something which you need to look at. Startup reality again is that most of the startups are failing. There are some reasons for that. First reason I'll tell you before going on to what these things are, basically how these five essential elements are there. The reason why many startups are failing in real life is because, especially at the university or the college level, I'll tell you, because right now government has started giving a lot of funds. Organization or the university is also deploying a lot of funds into startups. So we are providing funds to the departments, to the students for startup projects. It may happen that suppose I have got 5 lakhs with me right now, five, given by the Gujarat government. 5 lakhs is invested by the 5 or 6 lakhs is invested by the university. So suppose if I have 11 lakh of funds, I will start the funding ask for proposals from the university departments, and the students, university staff or the department staff may put pressure on the students and they may give some proposals. Now that proposals are given a very short span of 2 or 3 days in which they are supposed to submit the proposal. So there's not much brainstorming into that. So they put a business idea somehow, and in the um, compulsion to make utilize the funds, what we do is that sometimes we allocate the fund without actually scanning the proposal properly. So that will lead to the problem that student does not have the exposure regarding that proposal. Student may have copied some proposal from somewhere and submitted it. We don't know about that. So that is the reason why there is no passion behind the project, and that is the reason why the student may startup may not be successful. So when we are looking at any particular startup idea generated, it all starts with an idea. So we look at these 5 main concerns here, 5 elements which can lead to successful startups. First one is idea. Idea should be effective enough. It should not be a very conservative idea which has been implemented already before 20 years. That will not work. So idea has to be something new. Team and execution related knowledge should be there. Suppose if I say that I am going to work in a technology oriented domain, I should have the backup of people with me who are technology related. If I am building on a marketing solution, I should have marketing people with me. If I am building on content writing, I should have content writers with me. So team and execution related confidence should be there. So you should have a wide range of people with you with the uh, actual mindset and with the skill set that is required. So you have to choose your team accordingly. If you don't have a team, you have to build up a team. So that is where the interpersonal skills are very important, how the team is gelling with each other. So that is very important. So that is the second essential element of successful startup. Third is a business model. You have an idea, team is also there. Now, how will you make it a successful business model? How you make money out of it. Some people are technocrats, but they don't have the ability to translate this into a commercial value. So there you need sometimes management people, also marketing people, also you need sales people with you who can give you ideas on how you can utilize your model in a more effective manner. So business model execution is also very important. Fourth one is funding. Funding is very important. Why funding is very important? Because sometimes it happens that you have fund from a wrong or a costly source, then your business may not yield the profit that you require, because initially you don't have that much funds with you. You have limited funds, you have limited capital with you. So what you have to do is that you have to look at how can I decrease my expenses. Fund outflow should be limited. Now fund outflow, one of the reasons of when you're taking corporate funding is that you may have to pay amount as interest. That interest rate may be more than the market rate that is going on, because you don't have experience in this product. So that is the reason why funding becomes a very important component. Again, the benefit here for us is that most of the state governments are providing funds for SSIP, and the reason for that is that they are not charging any interest on that. So the whole benefit for us in the ecosystem is that we are having zero debt funds. Only the debt is of the money paid, and we have to execute that in proper fashion. So there is no refund of money also required if you have utilized it and you're not successful. So funding has become a less major concern, which was earlier a major concern, because when I was studying, I wanted to set up my own business, but I did not have funds for it. By the time I approached the banks for the fund, they said that you don't have a track record of your business, you are still a student. How can you fund? How can we fund you? So this funding parameter is very important, was very important at that time. Now it has eased out because of government intervention, because of many other players coming into the picture, and that has made funds less costly and very competitive. And the timing. Timing is very important, because if you have an idea and you sit on that idea without executing it for long, then it will not be productive enough. So you have to have a time bound management of your ideas and execution. So these five are the essential elements that can lead to successful startups: idea, team and execution, business model, funding, and time. These are some actual case studies where these ventures have become successful because of the points that they ranked that they've got in all these five. For Airbnb, actually, the idea was very fruitful, so they got 10 out of 10 in that idea. The evaluation team and execution model was they got 9, so they had a very good team with them. Business model they got 8, which is much higher because above 7 is acceptable, below 6 can be considered to be average. So out of 10, they are getting 8 there. Funding 6. Again, the funding parameters were maybe they might have paid some higher amount for the funding. So that they are getting 6, which is average, you can see. And timing, they timed it at the perfect moment and they have executed it properly. That is why they got 10. So overall rank is almost 9 to 10. So that is um, Airbnb's successful model. These have succeeded. Now, Uber also, if you find the idea 8, team 10, business model 7, funding 7, and timing 10. So overall, if you say that this was a study-based study done by Idea Lab on successful ventures, so they found that these are successful ventures which have actually benefited. And these are the 5 important components which you actually need to judge before you start with your uh, project. Are you having the details with you? Now, there, as I told you earlier, there have been a lot of startups which have failed, which have not succeeded. So that the reason here is that Friendster is one of them, where idea was good, 8 they have got in that. Team was not good, so 50% is not at all acceptable. They should be at least above 60%. Business model was not at all properly operated, so they have got 4. So business model was not proper. Funding 6 and timing 6. So overall, if you see that they are much below the average of 7 or 8 that they should be having along with. So they have failed because of that. So Cosmo.com also again 4, 5, 6, 10, and 4. Funding they have got, but then other things they have failed. So you have to be good on all the parameters. Webvan also 4, 5, 6, 10, 4. So again, funding is there, but other factors there failed. So let us actually go to understand what an entrepreneur means actually. Before going for incubators, I just want to spend more time on entrepreneur. So entrepreneur should have innovation, knowledge, business sense, risk tolerance, leadership, and team. They should have a very good team. That is very important. Now, all these are important characteristics an entrepreneur should have. The highlighted ones I will just read out and I will just explain a little bit. Should be self starters. Self starters means what? They should not be forced by anybody to have a startup. They should be startup. They should be planning the startup on their own. They should be focusing upon. They should be self motivated people who can motivate others, who can build up a team. They should be curious. They should be curious about how this, okay, this is the problem that I'm facing. Can I offer a better solution at a cheaper rate? Then I can become a successful entrepreneur. So curiosity should be there to understand things. Patient, they should be customer focused. They should be evaluating. They should be able to convince the customer, and they should not get. They should not be short tempered. So they should be very patient in their approach. Customers today may go, but tomorrow they should be again coming back if they're able to provide the service. They should be determined, like Colonel Sanders, 1009 times rejection, but he never got demotivated. He might be demotivated, but he never actually quit. He was in the ring and he was doing the things. So that is very much required. Flexibility should be there. You should be flexible to do the business. That is definitely there. Risk taking ability should be there. So these are some things which can make startups fail. I was talking about these are entrepreneur skills that can make startups successful. Now here lack of funds and poor financial planning. Most of the times, the problem with IT people, IT domain people, or pharmacy people are that they don't think about finance that much. So they are too much dependent upon other people for finance. So they don't have that knowledge of finance. So that may lead to proper uh, lack of funds and poor financial planning, which will lead to startups being failed. Or you can say poor customer service. That's also one of the reasons. Uh, Customer, once you prepare a product, you are not able to concentrate upon the customer because it is said that getting a new customer is very difficult, involves a lot of cost. But retaining an existing customer is the best way of getting more customers, because if the customer is satisfied, then he may bring in more customers for you. So this is some policy which you need to work upon. You need to tell the students that we need to work upon these policies and we need to focus upon customer service. There are many examples where, like I gave the Ola example. Ola was the best example of customer service because what they did is that when Chennai floods came, they provided their customers with free ferry service. They could have charged for that also, but they provided a free ferry service for office drop and uh, home drop back. So to and fro service they provided free of charge for the Ola customers, regular customers. And due to that, the loyalty of that particular brand increased, and people were not going to Uber even though they got a better bargain there. So this is something you need to look at. Loyalty needs to be built up. So customer service and loyalty is very important. It may happen that there may be a lack of focus because once this happens to many successful ventures, 1 or 2 months they get a good success and then they stop the focus and they start or they uh, there's a lack of focus on the exact service being provided, because of which customers start getting dissatisfied and they may leave. Or there may be disputes between partners, because when the business is being started up, when they get a good response, then they start counting the money and there's a legal dispute between partners which can lead to problem. So these are all the problems which we think can lead to a startup failure. So how do you bounce back from your startup failure? See, we need to tell our students regarding this also, because normally what happens is that we always tell them there is a mentality among, I mean, this mentality, I'll just give you one example here, that when we talk about parents, I mean, I'm also a parent. When suppose if the child is having some exam and he or she comes with the result, then what we tell normally, how many marks did you get, right? What is your rank? We are not checking many other parameters there. So always the marks or the output is focused upon the quality of work. That is not, and there is always a comparison between two people. Okay, he got so many marks, you got only these many marks. So that comparison is not realistic, and that leads to a lot of problems in the minds of the child. So child mentality is not to think something new. Child's objective becomes just getting marks. So from that time, actually, the cramming starts, and that leads to curiosity being reduced. The curiosity factor is reducing. They are not becoming problem solvers. They are just getting mark getters. They are just becoming mark getters. They are not becoming problem solvers. Because of that, the many issues are there, which leads to when they pass out from their college, they go for a job, everything they are just oriented towards success. They don't know how to go for failure, how to digest failure. We need to teach them how to come out of failure also. So that's also very important. We need to teach them how to go for problem solving rather than just go for shortcuts. So talk to friends and family regarding what you're feeling at that time, because many times some suicide cases are also prevented where startups have failed and they have tried suicide. But if we talk to them at the right time, probably there can be a revival and that startup can again be started with a new energy. So prepare and plan with consciousness. So these are all factors which you need to tell the student that these factors are which you need to focus upon. So find other sources of income to recover your loss. This is also very important. Sometimes you focus upon just one thing that is not successful, then you fail, then you stop everything. So that is also not proper. Wait for the right time to get the right opportunities. That waiting patience should be there. So all these are factors which can revive the startup from failure to success. Now, if I try to, just like we have Ganesh Ji's features, similarly here, anatomy of a successful entrepreneur is that the brain should be functional and there should be a pool of ideas, and that should be uh, that ideas should be brainstormed on a regular basis with like-minded people. Many times what happens that you have some idea, but you are fearing that, okay, this idea will it be successful or not. You don't have the kind of confidence to discuss that. You need to discuss it with people. You need to put it before investors. You need to look for investors also. Suppose if you're going to some function, there is some kind of company which is funding successful entrepreneurs or successful opportunities, then you should be able to identify that this is the person who can fund my project. Should not be going at some places where your funds are not um, properly invested, or you may not get the proper hearing that you want. So always I should be looking for investors and opportunities. Mouth should be communicating your vision, because based on the vision, the success matters. If your vision is not there, people will not be investing on you. Ears should be listening to customers' feedback. Again, customers' feedback is very important. You need to hear to that, and you need to hear very positively. Heart should be full of passion for that particular product or that particular business. Stomach, you should be having a gut feeling. You should be having a risk-taking ability, and that should be a calculated risk. It should not be a total failing type of risk-taking, but it should be a calculated risk. So you should have the guts to test the waters. Legs, they should be keeping you going in tough times also. It should not happen that you are mentally becoming very uh, tired very soon, or you are not physically that fit that you are not able to compete with others. Feet, dream high but stick to the ground. So these are all some of the abilities that a successful entrepreneur should have, right? Other than that, we have to build upon our skills. So in skill, actually, training should be there, ability, growth, advanced training, knowledge, learning, competence, all this should be built up, and skill building is the key right now for good successful entrepreneurs. Many startups have failed. I'm not focusing upon the failure part, but these are some of the reasons for failure. We've already discussed some reasons for failure, but I'm more focusing upon failure is because we are always focusing upon success. Sometimes you are not knowing about the field. I am an IT person. I go and start a pharmacy business. I may not be good in that. I may not have the knowledge about pharmacy. So, or if I say that I'm trying something new in the fashion industry, I'm not having any fashion related knowledge, and I should not be going for it. There may be lack of resources. That means I may not be having the team. I may not be having the money for that. I may not. It's a huge investment intensive particular product, and I don't have the money for that. I can't arrange. So I should not be sticking on to that. Most lack the quality, because you have just an idea but you don't have the quality. Then you have to either tie up with people who can provide you quality. Pricing doesn't make sense. You price them um, unavailability of sales, that means sales are decreasing, or you may say that you may price it too low and it will lead to loss. So that can also lead to startup failure. You may not get profit. You have to have some profit out of your startup also. Then only you can reinvest into it. Over expansion. Sometimes we do a lot of over expansion. Suppose I say that, say COVID vaccination. We say a COVID vaccination. Suppose somebody has found a vaccine and they keep on investing on the vaccine. Now after 2 years, COVID is not there. Still, you are expanding, right? And that can lead to a problem. So over expansion can sometimes lead to problems. So you have to be very calculative regarding the demand supply gap and accordingly act. And impulsive decision making. Always decision making should be fully thought after and not impulsive. Impulsive decision making can lead to a lot of losses and startup failures. Inability to utilize marketing platforms. If you're not able to, I'll give you the example of that. If you're not able to change, you will be obsolete, right? Those who have adapted the right platforms, they have changed and they have been successful. I'll give you an example that there was a company called LML, which was manufacturing scooters, right? Now, LML and Bajaj, they both were sharing the scooter segment, right? The gear scooter segment. After that, actually, LML vanished. Now only Bajaj is there, and they have adapted to different other bikes and different other electric vehicles, auto, etc. So this is the change that you need in your marketing platform, in your product strategies, and everything. So this is where you need to focus upon. Poor leadership and management. You're not having leadership skills and your management is not proper. There are more chances that you will be failing. Lack uniqueness. Nothing is unique in your product. You have the same product features that somebody else has. Then it makes no sense in launching the product. And you don't understand customers. You don't have a sense of what the customer needs. You don't get the pulse of the customers. And there is inconsistency also leads to failure. Inconsistency means I give one time restaurant I've opened. Once the quality of the food is very good, second time if the same customer comes, he complains that the food is not good. So there's inconsistency in the product. So that will also lead to failure. So when we locate a business idea, we ask these four questions in particular, which are very important. What, where, how, and who. If we get answers to all this, then probably this circle is satisfied, right? So this is what you need to have. We have an incremental model which we follow in software engineering. The same model I've tried to replicate here for this particular business idea, where we are focusing on R&D, networking, logistics, supply chain, value chain, revenue model, customer experience, solutions, platforms. So all these are important factors on which you can you can locate your business. You should be able to answer these questions. What is the product? Where are the channels or opportunities for sales or buying also? Processes, how are the processes followed? How can they be optimized? And who are the customers? Right? So these are the four factors you should be focusing upon. Now, a few examples of successful startups. There was a Bewakoof.com. Now, this particular name itself is very different. Actually, this was launched in 2012 by IITians. Actually, I've just listed something. They started with a business fund of around 30,000 rupees only, and later obtained a seed budget after 6 months of performance. So what their focus was that Bewakoof is something which will catch immediately the attention of anybody, right? So Rajkumar Rao was quoted as the brand ambassador of Bewakoof, and the tagline was "Thodi Bewakoofi bhi zaruri hai." So this was something which probably some people had not thought about. So this was a successful model. Misho is again one more success story where they are focusing upon user first. That means user should come first. User should be given priority. They are focusing upon hiring and growing exceptional talent, so they don't settle for less talented employees. They think 100%, 10%, think long term. If you're thinking 10%, but you have to think 10x, sorry, not 10%, 10x. You're thinking also more and you're thinking long term. You're not thinking at a short term policy. And problem first mindset, that means you're focusing upon the problems and how to solve it and what can be the other problems that will come in the future so that you can plan for according solutions. And speed over perfection. Don't go for perfection, but go for speed. Perfection will slowly follow. Stand up and speak your mind. Be bold regarding your whatever you're thinking. And company, team, or individual they are focused upon, and act like a owner of your. That means they give the cap to the employees, so they make them look like owners. And people-centric workplace where people enjoy working and they'll give you the maximum benefit. Most of the organizations, whether it's startup or a normal company also, they have succeeded only when they have thought about employees and customers. So these two are the basic backbones of your success. So if you focus upon customers but you neglect your employees, you will not be getting the output. If you focus upon employees but neglect the customers, again the output will be affected. So both are equally important. Now, when last few slides I'll just focus upon. Now, when you're going for idea presentation, whenever any startup idea is being presented, how do we evaluate that? So I've just tried to list out the steps here. There's an idea pre-screening where we have whether the idea is strategically feasible or not, technically, market situation wise, whether it provides any inspiration for carrying it forward or not. So idea pre-screening is done. If the idea is proper, then we go for the pre-screening decision. We give a go ahead. If the idea is not proper, what changes are required? That is communicated. So there's a pre-screening committee which does that. Once the pre-screening decision is affirmative or yes, then you go for evaluation. Evaluation, what we see is a competitive situation. What is the competition? Or are there similar products available? What is the revenue potential? If they are not available, then it's well and good. If they are available, then what is the revenue generation possible through that? And project scope and overlap. So these are the focusing points which we are looking about. So then after the evaluation, the steering committee actually sits for deciding which proposal is the best and the decision on the proposal. So top idea evaluation and what is the strength, weakness of the product and SWOT analysis is done, and then the proposal is selected. And then finally it is sent for the board proposal where the board actually decides on it and the decision of funding is taken, how much to fund, etc. Key criteria for idea evaluation is there any innovation in the product or not? And we need to target, are we having a target market or a business potential for that product? And what are the risks and feasibility? So I've already discussed about this earlier, but this is the focus area that we are looking at. Now, once we have talked to a lot of startups, now a few slides about incubators also. Incubators are basically some programs or some entities which are designed to support successful development of startups by providing business resources. Because if the idea is good, if there is a good team, then what we need to do is that we need some marketing advice. We have a program called Shark Tank, which was aired on TV before a few months. So same way that they were investors who were ready to have exposure based on some equity participation. Similarly, incubators provide the support that is required. They may provide business, marketing, and networking advice. They may provide computing resources like net access servers, computers, etc. Because mostly what happens is that in firms, in companies, this infrastructure is available. But for students, how do they proceed with this? If students have a good plan, they need internet access. They can't shell down that much money right now. Right? If there are some 20 employees working, then we provide a kind of a setup in the university itself, which can be an incubator setup or any other institution, which can provide this setup at low cost or minimum cost or no cost. Financial advisors are there, we give them advice regarding how to go about the financial patterns and how to invest the funds, etc., where to invest, how much to invest. All these financial advisors are advising them. There are management teams who can interact with them on a regular basis and provide them advice on how to proceed. We have access to loans in banks, angel investors, I'll be telling about that, and venture capitalists. These both are also brought in if required. Legal advisors are there for IPR, patent, copyright, trademark, and any such eventuality. So any such intellectual property right regarding guidance is given by legal advisors. So these are actually some kind of Y Combinator is one of them, Techstars is one of them. Most of the society cells have incubators in their campus. So how business incubators are helping the startups? So these are all the kind of help that they are giving. So they are like providing IPR support, technical assistance, mentoring. They are providing mentoring support also, access to angel investors or venture capitalist funds. Seed funding is given. Most of the SSIP related seed funding is given in the business incubator itself. Inexpensive workplace is given. Like I told you that workplace can be given at very minimum rent, which if they students go for some other place, it may be very costly. So that kind of inexpensive workplace can be given. Shared operational cost, networking support is given because they have a huge networking along them. So they can provide that networking support. They can connect with people. They can connect with customers. So that all benefits can be provided. Financial and accounting services, marketing expertise. So all these can be provided by business incubators. So they can help startups in that regard. Now, angel investors is somebody who can be an affluent individual or a high net worth individual who are ready to invest into funds. Like Shark Tank, I said there are many angel investors there. You can actually invest into this based on the type of equity participation, ownership equity, or convertible debt, etc. They can participate into it. The focus is that they think that this is profitable once angel investors are coming into the enterprise. That means they see value in the enterprise, so they are investing. So that gives a confidence to the startup also that I'm thinking in the right direction. And angel investors also have the support, so they can act as an incubator also sometimes. Venture capitalists are companies which are actually providing financial resources to early stage companies. Now, they are specializing in only financial related uh, focusing, and they invest when the firm is at a starting stage, and once the company is maturing, and they will be selling the stocks and moving out of it. So they are a pure venture capitalist fund which are focusing upon the financial resources. So this can be something which you can give to your students. This can be an exercise which you can give to a student. Activity time can be, I have kept it 15 minutes for my students, but it can be anywhere between 15 to minutes to 1 hour if you have the time for that. You can ask them to identify any business idea or product. You can ask them to perform SWOT analysis, and also they should be giving a presentation on how their idea differs from others. They need to pitch their ideas. What is the benefit of the ideas? Identify what are the challenges in competition, list the steps to overcome them, and then prepare idea evaluation screening criteria, which I just now shared with you in the slides. And then they are supposed to give a 5 minute presentation of their idea before an audience, and let the audience also brainstorm on it. Let us give the suggestions. So this way we can probably prepare them for the future challenges, and we can um, push them towards thinking something different. These are some of the top skills, 10 skills which are relevant in Industry 4.0 in 2020 onwards actually. Complex problem solving, critical thinking. Passion is also one of them which is not being mentioned here. But passion, I think, overrules all of these. If passion is not there, this would not be fruitful enough. Creativity is important. People management is very important. Coordinating with others. Emotional intelligence. How do you react to situations? That's very important. Judgment and decision making. Service orientation. Negotiation. And cognitive flexibility. So these are all the parameters which you should be focusing upon for development in your students. So with these words, I would just like to say that for the students in particular, that you inform your students that they should not be competing with anybody else. They are their own competitor. So you are your own competitor, and these are tough times. So stay socially connected and physically distanced. So with these words, I would just like to end my presentation. I'm open to any questions if uh, anyone is having,
The session
or
is open for
any
discussion
views.
now. The session is open for discussion now. You can post your queries in the chat box where you can unmute and interact with the resource person. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Please post your questions in the chat box. I'll read it to Sue. He's there to help you.
Okay, I think there are no questions.
Any questions? Please post your questions. Any
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the support, and thank you participants for the patient here.
Think there are no questions from your side. Shall we wind up, sir? Sir?
Can I leave then?
Sir, shall we wind up, sir? Think there are no questions from your side. Shall we wind up, sir? On behalf of IoT Academy, I thank Dr. Sailesh Iyer for the enriching and enlightening session. We thank you once again, sir, for the amazing presentation. Your session on entrepreneurship and startups will be very fruitful and beneficial to us, sir. And thank you so much for your efforts. And I thank all the participants for joining the session today. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your efforts, sir.
Thank you.
Kindly submit the feedback form using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all. Have a great day.